sit down and grab your lunch. It's time for the Bolts Brown Bag, the only show where you make the call.
The Chargers now at 8-4, certainly better on their playoff possibilities. They've got 4 games left, and that's the poll question we've got up for you right now at boltsbrownbag.com. If you're watching, you'll see it right there along the right side of your screen. How do you think the Bolts will fare over their final 4 games? Home against New England, home against Denver, at the San Francisco 49ers, and then at the Kansas City Chiefs to end the season. The toughest remaining schedule for any team in the NFL, and you get your 5 choices there: 4-0, 3-1, 2-2, 1-3, or 0-4. And Steve, I think all 5 of those choices are pretty much still in play right now for the San Diego Chargers.
I would think. I mean, they went to Baltimore. They hadn't won in Baltimore since 1981, and Baltimore was the Colts.
No one
back then. No
West Coast team, which I assume means the Chargers, 49ers, Raiders, Seahawks, and probably the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Had ever won in that stadium, M&T Bank Stadium, since it opened in 1998.
And you go back there and do that, unexpectedly maybe, and you pull off a win like that, why not? They said confidence. They have been confident, they said today, all year long. But did that boost their confidence? Jarrett Johnson said, no, we're still the same team. We're a confident football team. So, yeah, why not? Why can't they win the rest?
No team's unbeatable in the NFL right now. I mean, we saw the Patriots lose, to a very good Green Bay team yesterday. But, hey, they got clocked by the Kansas City Chiefs earlier this season. Denver is good, but the Rams just beat them and held them to 7 points a couple of weeks ago. So they're certainly beat. You look at Peyton Manning. He's a great quarterback, of course, but the arm strength isn't there. He can be had. He can be had if you can get a little bit of pressure on him.
And he's always one hit away. All quarterbacks are, but
we've been saying that since he joined the AFC West, and so far he's never lost a road game in the AFC West. In fact, the only AFC West game he's lost since he joined the Broncos is when the Chargers won on that Thursday night last year in Denver. He's swept the division every year since joining the Broncos. So, it's tough, but it's possible to beat him. San Francisco, they're 7-5. They've had some problems. They could be out of it. Actually, by the time the Chargers go up there, and they did announce, by the way, yesterday, if you missed it, that's a Saturday game. It's going to be the late game now. They made it a 5:15 start, 5:25 start. So that's going to be a primetime game on that second to last Saturday of the season, the 20th. And then at Kansas City, it's a division game. It's going to be tough to win at Arrowhead, but those have been close games every time the Chargers and Chiefs have played.
Arrowhead's always tough, but say 2-2 last year.
Right.
Can be done. So, you never.
I'm glad you brought that up because I want to talk a little bit about the comeback yesterday and kind of where it ranks among Phillip Rivers' great comebacks that we've seen. And I've seen the argument that might have been the best comeback we've seen from Phillip Rivers. It certainly belongs in the discussion. 2 touchdown drives in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter on the road, hostile environment, other side of the country. He's playing as much as they try to downplay it, and you've seen him too. He's in pain. He's in some sort of rib pain, whether they're bruised, broken. Something's not right in Phillip Rivers' chest right now, and they're saying it's no big deal, and obviously he's playing well, but he's playing through it. He did that as well. It's got to be up there, but you brought up last year.
Which I thought last year.
That Chiefs win in Kansas City was great, the comeback with the Ejiro Tutu catch at the end. But, hey, they needed to come back at home to make the playoffs against – admittedly, Chiefs second stringers in the last game of the season, but in terms of importance, with a playoff berth on the line, that was huge. You had that lull of comebacks when the Chargers missed the playoffs in Norv's last 3 years, and everyone said, Phillip's not clutch. He doesn't have any fourth-quarter comebacks. But he really is. You go back, he had another great comeback in Kansas City in 2008. Had that one in the Meadowlands against the Giants when Vincent Jackson caught the touchdown pass in the final few seconds to beat the Giants in 2008. I think in 2006, in the year they went 14-2, he beat Seattle with a big long touchdown pass to Vincent Jackson on the road at the end of the game as well. So there's been some good ones, but this one was pretty darn good.
This was great. I think this one, and like you said, the Kansas City one, just because obviously Kansas City, Arrowhead, not a lot of teams win in Arrowhead. So I like that one specifically. But that one, I'll take that one because we're talking about this year now. So
but
I'll take that one.
Hey, the game kind of played out the way I was looking. And I'll admit, I predicted a Baltimore victory just because I know how tough it is to win on the road there. And I thought Chargers are going to stay in this game, but I see Baltimore just kind of hanging on for a 7 to 10 point win in the fourth quarter, and that's kind of how it played out until the end. And I I really think Baltimore dropped the ball in this game because if they had been a little more aggressive, if John Harbaugh had gone for it on 4th down either earlier in the game, 4th and 1 in Chargers territory, 4th and 3, 4th and 4, they settled for a bunch of field goals in the red zone. And then even at the end of the game, when they got the Chargers got within 3 on the Keenan Allen touchdown catch, and then Jacoby Jones had the big long kickoff return, if the Ravens had just gone for it on 4th and 4 there instead of kicking the field goal, they would have had a chance to either close the Chargers out or score a touchdown would have closed them out. Instead, they kicked a field goal, and that only puts them up by 6. And really all that does is it gives the Chargers almost a little room to work with. They don't have to worry about going for are we going to go for a field goal? Are we going to go for a touchdown? Do we go for it on 4th down? Do we kick? They had to score a touchdown. So it almost simplified things for the Chargers. And Phillip Rivers looked like very comfortable in that final drive with no timeouts, moving the ball down the field. I loved how they just were patient and went with chunks. A lot of teams, I think, would panic in that situation. Hey, we don't have any timeouts. We got to get 40 yards on the first play. No, they, a couple quick ones to Keenan Allen, got out of bounds, stopped the clock. All of a sudden you're at midfield, short one. And then when you get, 40 seconds left, you take your shot and you draw the pass interference penalty in the end zone.
And Malcolm Floyd talked about that today. He asked if he thought it was pass interference. And of course, Malcolm being Malcolm, a little quiet about that subject, didn't really want to talk about that.
It was pass interference.
He said he was going for the ball, and he said he did feel a little hand around the waist. So yeah, he agreed with the call.
Malcolm was kind of, they were both doing the same thing, but they had it was like a bear hug around Malcolm Floyd. And Malcolm Floyd. if it was some other guy, you'd say, well, he had no chance for it. Yeah. But Malcolm Floyd goes up and catches those balls all the time.
Malcolm Floyd catches everything,
So, if the guy, and he wasn't really looking at the ball, so. And if you get the one that was called in Sharice Wright just a few minutes before was no more egregious. So if you're going to call it one way, call it the other way. I know John Harbaugh kind of whined a little bit after the game. Hey, let the players decide it, not the referees. Well, you got plenty. Talk about the mistakes the Chargers made in that game on 3rd down penalties, pass interferences. Eric Weddle's personal foul. The Chargers gave them so many extra chances with the little help from the referees in that game. Baltimore has no reason to be complaining about the officiating.
How many times did almost Doomerville line up on the other side of the football?
Both teams made some mental mistakes. As Dan Fouts pointed out on the telecast, all you have to do is look. The ball is on the yard line. If your hand is there, that's what the neutral zone is. It's the length of the football. You can't put your head in there. You can't put your hand in there to start the play. So, it wasn't a perfectly played game, but in the end, the Chargers, I guess, made one fewer mistake or made one more play at the end.
As Mike McCoy says, we scored we got to score one more point than they did, or they do. That's what.
And in this case, it was literal.
Yeah.
Usually it doesn't work out exactly that way, but in this case, it was literal. So, all right, here's what we got coming up on the show today. We've got Brandon's going to bring out lunch. You always miss lunch because he's never here for the lunch, but he's going to bring out lunch, and we're going to talk with John Gennaro from boltsfromtheblue.com, the managing editor. I do a podcast with him every week that they post on their website, and we put on 10news.com. But I believe we've got John lined up right now. So, John, welcome to Bolts Brown Bag. Good to finally have you on this show.
Did you have me call in the same time they were bringing out lunch? Because I can't compete with that.
You have not missed lunch yet. Brandon is still serving inside the cafe. So you haven't missed lunch yet. All we're here is talking about the game. So you haven't missed anything.
Good. I can't wait to see what he's serving up every week. It just makes me so hungry that I no longer care about the Chargers.
All right. Just give us first some of your initial thoughts on the win. You predicted a Chargers victory on our podcast, and I already said I thought Baltimore was going to win. So go ahead, gloat, say you were right. Why were you right, John?
I was right because I picked the right time of the schedule. We both said that this is what the Chargers do. They have one or two games where they look terrible, and the fans start freaking out, thinking that they don't have it this year, and then all of a sudden they go on a run, and you said that they were going to lose to the Ravens, and that was going to be the big freak-out game. And I said the freak-out game was against the Raiders, a game they should have lost, or hell, maybe even against the Rams, another game they should have lost. But no, it's I think they've started their run. They're starting to find some consistency. I think Melvin Ingram, Jerry Atachu, Ryan Matthews all being back makes this a significantly better team than the one that lost a few games in the middle of the year. So they're right now, just trying to get out of their own way. If they can limit the mistakes, limit the turnovers, they will compete with anybody. They'll compete with the Broncos. They'll compete with even the Patriots on Sunday night.
You know, one thing that impressed me, and we talked about it last week when the Chargers did a great job at the end of the first half managing the clock, getting 3 points. We saw 2 occasions of it this week, John. At the first half, they ended with a Nick Novak field goal, got 3 points on the board, and then, of course, you know, at the end of the game, managing the clock, getting both the 2 scores without the clock running out and not leaving too much time for the Baltimore Ravens. I think we're seeing some real growth from Mike McCoy in terms of game and clock management. At least my fingers are crossed. I hope we are.
There's hope for Mike McCoy yet. You know, we look at this team and you see Phillip Rivers and Antonio Gates are sort of the longtime leaders and veterans, but it's easy to forget just how young everyone else is, players and coaches alike. I mean, this is Mike McCoy's second year as a head coach. John Pagano is still learning on the job as a defensive coordinator. It's Frank Reich's first year calling plays as an offensive coordinator. This is a very, very young, inexperienced coaching staff. And so you sort of have to think of them like they're a rookie. When they make mistakes, you got to go, well, I hope they'll learn from it. And it appears that Mike McCoy is learning from his mistakes and realizing that he can't leave points on the board and realizing that he can't coach this team in fear of a Phillip Rivers turnover or interception. He just has to go for glory and hope that, you know, his quarterback doesn't kill him as a result.
How concerned are we about the defense? They did give up 33 points, but they stiffened in the red zone a few times, forced field goals. I was just telling Steve earlier that, you know, I think the Ravens could have been a little more aggressive if they had gone for it on a couple of fourth downs, maybe even on that last one before kicking the field goal at the end of the game. They might have been able to hold on and beat the Chargers. Are we more concerned about the defensive performance? There were no sacks of Joe Flacco. There were no turnovers created in that game yesterday.
Yeah, and there wasn't a lot of blitzing going on. It wasn't a very aggressive defense. It was a bend but don't break defense. I mean, they would let the Ravens drive all the way down, but then once they got in the red zone, they would usually keep them out of the end zone. And so that's not exactly what you want to be playing with, but you know, that's won the Chargers a lot of games over the last 5 or 6 years with a high-powered offense. So I don't think we should be that concerned. I would be a lot less concerned if Jason Verrett was going to come back from his injury anytime soon. The weirdest thing about the defensive performance yesterday is the person that I was missing the most, which was Andrew Gatchkar. He was an absolute demon against the Rams and played very well against the Raiders. Missed yesterday's game with an injury of some sort. And Donald Butler played absolutely terrible. Maybe the worst game of his career yesterday. And I'm looking forward to Gatchkar coming back. But this is never going to be a top 10 defense. Right now they're just hoping that they can hold their opponents to 20, 25 points a game and outscore them.
Andrew Gatchkar was actually the Bolts Brown bagger of the game last week, and I think I forgot to give it out. So retroactive apologies to Andrew Gatchkar. We'll do this week's in just a second. Last thing, and then I'm going to let you go, John, because we do have lunch here, and I want to get to it because it looks awfully good. With the New England Patriots coming to town, Tom Brady, they're coming off a loss, and I'm not sure whether that's good or bad. They're going to be fired up, or are they vulnerable as they come to town? And interestingly, already in town now, they're spending the entire week in San Diego preparing for this game against the Chargers. Didn't go back to New England.
Well, who would? If you had the option to stay in San Diego this week to practice under 65, 75-degree weather, clear skies, or going back to New England and hoping it's not too cold, your players are going to get injured during practice, you would do it too. It makes perfect sense. This game, as far as I'm concerned, comes down to how the Chargers defend Rob Gronkowski, because that bend but don't break defense is great and all, but if you can't defend Rob Gronkowski, they're going to end up getting in the end zone when they're in the red zone. So I think the key to this game is either coming up with some sort of creative way to guard Rob Gronkowski, or hell, we've mentioned him enough already. Why not throw another one out there? Andrew Gatchkar could be the key to this game. He's probably the best man coverage inside linebacker the team has. He may be just put on Rob Gronkowski, or maybe Manti Te'o, who's also been pretty good at it. But if they can keep Rob Gronkowski under 100 yards and the defensive line can keep the Patriots running attack from doing one of those huge random 150-yard games that they do 3 times a year, then the Chargers should have no problem. I'm not really afraid of the Patriots defense. Maybe I should be, but I'm not.
You know who's a big Andrew Gatchkar fan? This guy, Steve Smith, right here, has been telling me for years to watch out for Andrew Gatchkar.
I still remember a couple of years ago when Andrew Gatchkar was playing linebacker, and Norv Turner afterwards said Andrew Gatchkar is not a linebacker. He's a special teams player. It just happens to say LB on the roster. That's the only thing that makes him a linebacker.
Well, Norv Turner was kind of known for maybe underestimating some of the Chargers. Same guy who said this is nowhere near a playoff team when he walked out the door, and then of course they made the playoffs the first year after he leaves. So maybe that was one of the reasons why he's no longer around.
You know, and talking about Patriots coming out here, Jared Johnson talked today how when he was with Baltimore, he said there was a hurricane or some storm coming up the eastern seaboard, so they came out early as a member of the RAIP to practice out here prior to playing the Chargers. So he says, why not?
Why not?
It's a good thing.
Yeah, hey, we're going to get them a bunch of rain when they come too. John, hey, we'll do the podcast. We'll have that posted up later this week, but it's good to get you on the Brown Bag for once, and have a good rest of your Monday.
Yeah, anytime, and I don't know what lunch is, but I'm sure it's delicious, so enjoy it.
It looks like a festive salad, which brings us, by the way, to our What's for Lunch segment. And it is good to welcome back our sous chef, Brandon Chambers of our 10 News Cafe, our resident football genius. So, Brandon, welcome back to the Brown Bag. And what do you have for us today?
Hey, how you doing today, Ben? Today we have the San Juan chicken salad, and it's garnished off with some radish, corn, whole jalapeno, tomatoes, cilantro, tortilla chips, some shredded cheese, and avocado with a nice good hot dressing of ranch.
Nice. Now let's talk about the merits of cilantro first. I love cilantro. Some people absolutely hate it. What's the percentage of people who say no cilantro on my salad?
Actually, they actually love the cilantro here.
Good.
So it's an over under. So I'll say probably over about five people here.
Okay, good.
So cilantro is more than just a decoration.
No, it's part of the meal. We throw it in there.
I think it's key, and I just keep hearing people say that they don't like cilantro.
It must be. It must be
If you live in San Diego, you gotta love cilantro. You gotta love avocado. Avocado makes everything better.
Just like bacon.
I mean, and you watch the cooking channels all the time, so you would know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is part food show, part Charger show. Mostly Charger show. So let's get on to discussing the game yesterday, Brandon, and your thoughts. Just an amazing comeback, obviously, by Philip
Yes,
Rivers.
it was. It was a very amazing comeback. I was pretty amazed that they can handle the 2-minute drill with no timeouts. That was what really shocked me. Keenan Allen is really stepping up into that receiver role and becoming that second or third guy to go to. Once again, Antonio Gates made himself very, very open. I don't know how he does it. It's just I'm trying to study his ways of getting open. So it's like Philip Rivers is like that's his go-to blanket, his security blanket. Anytime there's pressure, you know who's going to go to 85. What really surprised me was at the end of the game when there was a pass interference and the Ravens got the ball on their 3-yard line and they ended up kicking a field goal. And during the 2-minute drive, San Diego got the same call in the end zone, but the ball was placed on the 1-yard line. So I was kind of confused on that one. But other than that, that was a good game. I want to see more of the run game come from Ryan Matthews, though. We need to see more from Ryan Matthews in order for San Diego to probably succeed further deeper into the second half of the season.
I agree. I mean, Baltimore's got a good run defense, but did you know that Brandon here is a wide receiver? He plays. You probably covered one of his games.
What he said, I'm studying Antonio Gates. I kind of figured
he's a developmental football wide receiver. 4.4 40 time. Just needs to put on a little bulb. But I want to ask you about Keenan Allen because a lot of people were saying, oh, not what we expected from Keenan Allen this season. But now we're really, last couple of weeks, we're really seeing him rise up. In fact, he passed his rookie pass-catching total yesterday, and that was, I think, maybe the best game of his 2 years as a Charger yesterday.
I think that was a good moral victory for him to see that he's coming into the program that the way the Chargers want him to come in. He's becoming more of effective during a 0 to 5 route game. So yesterday I was actually surprised that he was going deep for the routes with the nice 360 catch for the touchdown, and he's finally getting the opportunity to show that he can be a part of this program.
You know, yesterday 4 receivers with over 80 yards receiving. First time in Chargers history. And you go back and look who they've had. in the past, that kind of caught me by surprise.
Yeah, I mean, you think in the Fouts era.
Fouts era, yeah.
You know, Joyner, Chandler, Winslow.
Severs,
maybe.
Yeah,
so that probably would have happened at least once.
Yeah.
So I was also surprised by that stat yesterday. Well, Brandon, thanks for bringing by. That looks fantastic. Love the avocado. Love the cilantro. Perfect, outstanding. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, thanks for having me.
All right, Brandon Chambers, our sous chef and our resident football genius who comes in. Now, Keenan Allen, you just saw him a little while ago. He came to the podium. I mean, the 2 touchdown catches were both phenomenal.
Yeah.
The dive, first of all, at the end of the first quarter, got his hands under the ball, kept it from touching the ground. And then as Brandon was talking about, that spin on the second to last touchdown there at the end of the game. What do you think about the season that he's had this year?
I mean, he hasn't been, obviously a lot was made because he hadn't found the end zone as much as he had done last year. And I think he wasn't making that explosive catch like we saw. Remember the Denver game last year where he caught that ball across the middle, took it on in, and kind of launched himself into the end zone. I think we hadn't seen that up to this point coming in. So I think, people were kind of waiting for that. We wanted to see the Keenan Allen from last year. But still, second year, still a lot of football to learn. Still a young guy.
And I think a lot of people forget with Malcolm Floyd back, taking some of those targets and catches and, maybe a comeback player of the year candidate in the NFL and Antonio Gates there's only one football on the field that can be thrown per play. And if you've got a couple of guys open, your numbers are probably going to go down a little bit.
I mean, even look at from the other side, even look at Ladarius Green. The year he had last year really we haven't called his number a lot this year, and I think a lot of people are, what's happened to Ladarius Green, maybe like they were saying with what's happened to Keenan Allen.
Maybe nothing, though. It's
maybe
just,
nothing,
It's just everyone else is having a great season. All right, before we get to our 3 questions, let's give out our Bolts Brown Bagger of the Game award. Always goes to one of the unsung heroes, the people that not everyone is talking about. So without further ado, today's Bolts Brown Bagger of the Game is... Who? Trevor Robinson. Yeah, Chargers fans, you might not recognize the name, but Trevor Robinson is the 5th different center who has snapped balls to Phillip Rivers this season. And he had to come in the second half yesterday when Chris Watt, who is the 4th center to snap balls to Phillip Rivers this season, went out with an injury. And you know what? He was in there for the final drive. And what just amazed me is that, Mike McCoy always talks about the next man up. And we kind of shrug and go, okay, whatever, coach. But literally at center, I mean, they've had to go from Nick Hardwick to Doug Legursky to Rich Orenberger, all 3 on IR, to Chris Watt. At some point you think it's going to cost you the football game, but they got it done with the guy out there. I don't know anything really about him. He went to Notre Dame just like Chris Watt. Hey, Brown Bagger of the Game, though, to come in and be ready to play like that is impressive.
Do we even know what number he wears?
I have no clue. No clue. I saw him coming into the game going, I know nothing about this guy.
Who's that guy?
But he gave Phillip Rivers enough time in those last 2 drives. And, hey, the Ravens knew it because they were bringing blitzes up the middle on Phillip Rivers. They said, hey, this guy's their 5th-string center. Let's take advantage of that and try to put some pressure up the middle. And, it worked a couple of times. To give Rivers credit, by the way, for getting rid of the ball and knowing it was coming. Helps a lot for these young centers to have Phillip Rivers behind them knowing what's going on.
And with the Ravens' defensive line, I mean, that's, who knew?
Yeah. They did not have a very good game.
No.
They did not have a very good game. Do you get it? Hello, Nada. All right, let's get to our 3 questions and welcome our web editor, Ferris Tanyos, who is here. And you'll be your first 3 question segment. So, hi, Ferris. All right, let's get Ferris's microphone. There we go. All right.
Great. So first question is about RG3. 2 years ago, he was Rookie of the Year. He came into the league. People thought he was going to save the Redskins. Now he's been benched, and he's probably on his way out of Washington. First off, what happened? Will he get a chance with another team? Will he start again for another team? What do you guys think?
Oh, he's definitely going to start again, probably for another team. Yeah. What happened? I don't know. I know they were saying that after the injury he came back, his mechanics were totally off. Didn't look like the same quarterback.
It takes longer for some people. I mean, you can get back on the field. I think the Redskins are 6-23 since he suffered the ACL injury, and who knows if he's ever totally back to 100%. But when you look at the level of quarterback play in the back half of the NFL right now, I mean, there's no way that he's not going to get a chance somewhere. I mean, there's so many teams that are so desperate for something, a spark, that could give them some hope, give their fan base some hope going into next season. Absolutely. There's going to be 2 or 3 teams that would jump for the
what
chance.
Team? What team do you think?
Well, I don't know. They talk themselves into it. The Jets, I'm sure, could talk themselves into it for the start of next season. I mean, the Bills possibly.
How about the Raiders?
Derek Carr hasn't been bad, but he got pulled yesterday, and that
seems like something they do.
That embarrassment. So someone's gonna give him a chance out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Number 2. So possibly the most controversial call yesterday. Marvin Lewis saves the Bengals season by throwing an illegal challenge flag that forced the officials to go back and review a play in which the Bucs had 12 players on the field. Should coaches, the rule obviously right now is you can't challenge under 2 minutes. Right. Should that rule be changed?
Well, they adjusted it already once. Remember Jim Schwartz, then coach of the Lions, threw it out, and the penalty used to be not only did you lose a timeout, but then they wouldn't even review the play at all, and it cost the Lions 7 points when he threw it out prematurely. We saw Mike McCoy do it last year, and Phillip Rivers tried to kick the red flag away, and no, coach, you can't do that. Like no one was going to see him kicking it off the field, but it only cost the Chargers a timeout. Here's the thing. Sometimes those replay booth refs aren't paying attention or what's going on. I mean, remember the Percy Harvin touchdown against the Chargers earlier this season when he stepped out of bounds, and it's like, well, you can't challenge it because it's a scoring play, but if no one's going to do anything about it, you got to do something to be able to stop play and say, please take a look at this. So I would say coaches should be allowed to throw the flag and say, could you please if you're not going to buzz it down yourselves, can you please take an extra hard look at this one? Because we have an idea there was 12 men on the field, or he stepped out early and you missed it. So I do think they should be able to – there should be a system in place where they're able to do that. Mm-hmm. Hey, credit Marvin Lewis. It really didn't hurt his team at all.
No.
A very heady play that probably – rarely can a coach actually win a game for his team. He actually may have won the game for his team by breaking the rules.
He just said, I didn't know that was against the rules. That's all
he knows. He's on the competition. He knows it was against the rules. He's on the competition committee. He also realized that it's not going to cost me anything to break the rules here, and I may actually get what I want. And it did. So smart strategy by Marvin Lewis, who's not usually known for that.
No, not at all. As a Bengals fan, I can tell you that.
Okay. Last question.
Last question. So since winning their Super Bowl in 2011, the Giants haven't been back to the playoffs. They're 3-9 this season. Are Eli Manning and Tom Coughlin going to be back with the team next year?
Boy, that's a tough one. I always thought it's funny because just when you count the Giants out is when they come back and win the Super Bowl. I mean, even the last time they won it, everyone was saying, is Tom Coughlin out? Is he going to be fired? And then a month later, he's raising the Lombardi Trophy. There's going to be no such comeback this year. They're done. They're out.
Unless we put them back in the NFC South. But there was just transition them in the NFC South and let them.
But there was a newspaper today with a headline that said, "Put a nail in the Coughlin."
Well, I'm sure it's not the first time that one of the New York tabloids has
But here's my question for you guys: Is it fair to fire a coach who's won 2 Super Bowls, or does he have the right to go out on his own terms?
No, that's
the
NFL.
It's a what have you done for me lately?
Yeah. Really?
I think everyone has their time, and hopefully he'll realize and step down with a little dignity before it gets ugly. As I think Manning, that's the more interesting question. I mean, is he playing himself out of the Hall of Fame? Because he really, I mean, with 2 Super Bowl trophies, he's probably a Hall of Famer, yet he's doing his darndest to play him his way out of the Hall of Fame.
You're saying he should just retire right now before he does any more
retire
damage?
now and you're in.
Yeah, exactly. Play a few more years, you could be in trouble as
you're messing the whole thing up.
Those interceptions. So, it'd be funny if one day, though, that the brothers went in together or something. Yeah. I've always contended Phillip Rivers is a much better quarterback than Eli Manning. Eli just got on a better team in better circumstances and had 2 really good months at the right time, and has otherwise been an okay, between below average and above average quarterback, kind of fluctuating throughout his regular season.
Let me ask you this: San Diego natives, is Phillip Rivers a Hall of Fame quarterback? What do you guys think? I've kind of covered this in my column.
Numbers-wise, I mean, his numbers compare very favorably like Dan Fouts. We did that last week. Yeah. So you'd say yes, but in the era where he is, you've got to compare eras. And when you're going up against Manning and Brady and Roethlisberger and Eli Manning, you can't put every quarterback in an era in the Hall of Fame. So unless he wins a Super Bowl, I don't think he's going to get it. I think he has to win one.
Which is too bad, because that's why Don Coryell is not in the Hall of Fame, because he didn't win a Super Bowl. He changed the game, both offensively and defensively, but because he hasn't won a Super Bowl or hadn't won a Super Bowl, he's, that counts against him. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough call. I mean, I know obviously it's about winning Super Bowls, but if you don't get there, sometimes it's just not the quarterback's fault. You got to have a defense as well. You got to have players around. So.
All right, Ferris, appreciate that.
Thank you.
We're going to wrap it up. I want to get some of the tweets. People have been commenting during the show here. Jake tweeted, this ranks in terms of comebacks. We were discussing where it ranks in Phillip Rivers' comeback. He said, this ranks number 1, the win against Baltimore yesterday, the playoff game in 2007 versus Indy. So that was the overtime. Mike Cyphris had the great punting game, and Darren Sproles scored in overtime to win that. He has that number 2. And then in 2006, the comeback in Cincinnati. You remember, and the defense had a lot to do with that one as well. There was a sack fumble of Carson Palmer late, and they came back way. They were down 24 points.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
I think in like the third quarter, though, and came back to win that one.
That's a good one.
So he ranks that one as number 3. Eric Stengel, who was on the show last week, tweeted that a person's love or hate of cilantro may be genetic, according to Mike.com. So he's adding a little bit to the cilantro discussion.
I don't like cilantro.
See, and I told you, some people don't, some people do. Now maybe it's genetic.
Garnish. It's garnish.
Maybe your dad, Mike, doesn't like cilantro. Former 10 News sports director.
He used to eat plenty of cilantro right here in the same cafeteria.
Right here,
where
years and years of
ago.
cilantro
Go back to 1982 on that one.
You're a legacy.
That was
here.
during the Don Coryell show.
If this was a fraternity, you'd be like the legacy who joined here. And then that question: can the Chargers go undefeated in December and be the top seed in the AFC? They can. I mean, whether or not they can do it, I don't know. But if they won their last 4 games against New England, Denver, San Francisco, and Kansas City, they'd still need a little help. They'd need Denver to lose 1 more.
Right.
And their only chances are against probably Buffalo or at Cincinnati. But if they did that, they'd have the tiebreaker against New England because of the head-to-head win.
Yep.
And if they beat Denver out, then it would just come down to maybe Cincinnati would have to lose 1 more game because they have the 8-3-1 record right now. But there's a great chance they could still be the number 1 seed if they swept it out. So here's the standings. Chargers atop the wild card, but with all those teams behind them, there's not a lot of margin for error. They've got the good tiebreaker now on the Ravens. But the Dolphins, who play the Jets tonight on Monday Night Football, have the tiebreaker on them. So that kind of balances out. They got the tiebreaker on the Bills. Chiefs have it now. I still see it coming down to that last game of the season in Kansas City. I find it, unless the Chargers win the next 3, I'm not sure that they can get in the playoffs unless they win that one.
But all at the news conference today, they asked Jared Johnson, Keenan Allen, Malcolm Floyd about the remaining games. Tough schedule, and you can probably guess the answer that they gave because they all 3 gave the same answer.
Let's see. We think every game's a must-win game.
That was, okay, we'll go with 2 of them. That was one of them. 1 game at a time. I hadn't heard that one before. 1 game at a time.
1 game at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't take them 2 at a time.
No.
Yeah. We're going to take the last 4. We're going to take them 2 at a time. We're going to play the Patriots and Broncos, and then we're going to do the 49ers and Chiefs.
We're looking ahead to Arrowhead right now.
All right, Brady's coming to town. He's already in town. Say hi to Tom if he's around town. I haven't found out exactly where the Patriots are practicing. My guess would probably be USD.
I heard the other college just throw a C.
Oh, really?
That's what I heard.
UCSD.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's not like we're it's
Send people
Bill
out to heckle.
Bill Belichick's secrets are not our secrets.
Yeah.
So if we find out, we'll let you know, and go ahead and bring your cameras and long-range binoculars. And,
bullhorns.
Hey, make this week as difficult as possible for the New England Patriots.
Bring out those what do they call those vuvuzelas?
Right,
yeah.
Throughout the practice. Well, that'll help. That'll just be crowd noise practice.
Yeah, that's
they
true.
won't have to bring in the artificial crowd noise that most teams do. But hey, if you see them around town, that they are here all week.
Yep.
So it should be a great game. Prime time. Obviously, we'll be down there covering it and have it for you. And we'll be back next week. I have actually a Patriots fan coming in next Monday. So it's going to be a tough show for one or the 2 of us. Matthew T. Hall from the UT San Diego is going to sit here, who does all their social media content. He is a New Englander. So it'll be a good one-on-one battle inside the brown bag next week. But, Steve, it was fun having you join us in the cafe for once.
Yeah, let's do it again.
We will do it again. All right, for Steve Smith, I'm Ben Higgins. Thanks for joining us on another edition of Bolts Brown Bag Live every Monday at 12:30 right here on 10news.com.